Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And I am so excited today. I don't often anymore ask someone to be on the program. We get a lot of pitches of very great guests. Absolutely love it, but it means I don't have to do a lot of work. But I reached out to this young man and I said, got to have you on the program. We'll obviously explain a little bit later about why, but this is going to be a great discussion, especially for someone who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a small business owner. And so please join me in welcoming Derrion Rakestraw to our program today. Welcome, Derrion. How the heck are you doing?
I'm good. I really appreciate you having me on the show. But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Perfect. I love it. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Derrion Rakestraw is a graduate of the University of Colorado, hence the reason I wanted him on the program, but also Tulane University, both of which he played football at. He is now navigating the world and leveraging his connections. Throughout his experience as a student, as well as an athlete, Derrion gained many helpful skills that transfer to any field of work. He had the opportunity to grow as a leader, excel in many different leadership styles, demonstrate proper time management, demonstrate the ability to coach as well as be coachable, learn how to juggle multiple responsibilities, learn how to adapt to new situations and cultures, and much more. He has demonstrated the ability to learn quickly and is in continuous pursuit of new learning opportunities. He enjoys working with leaders who have the drive and passion to win. And so again, Derrion, welcome. This is going to be so much fun.
Yes, I think so. And yeah, I think all that is true, and yeah, like you said, I played football, Colorado, played at Tulane, went to Colorado, got my undergraduate degree in strategic communications. Learned a lot while I was there. I was there from 2016 to through 2020, through the COVID year. Then I grad transferred over to Tulane, got my master's degree in sports administration. And yeah, it's just been a really good experience going through all that and just seeing how much I've learned throughout the whole process, just grown as a person and as a player and as an entrepreneur and everything. So it's been a really fun experience.
I love it. And you got that extra year of eligibility, which was because of COVID. So you were able to play for 6 years. And it was obviously a very tumultuous time because not only did you have COVID, you had lots of different head coaches.
Oh, yeah.
And part of what I really love about this is athletes, especially at a big D1 type of program, so that elite level, it is very much like a workplace. A coach is your CEO. You've got players, you've got, employees. I mean, all of these various things. And so as an athlete, as I mentioned in your bio, you learn skills that are easily transferable into the workplace.
Yeah. And I think I've just been realizing it this past couple months when I've been out of football. Everything that I've learned while playing is transferable to life.
Right.
And I talk about it with a lot of my old teammates too, and we're all going through similar situations. And we can almost relate everything back to a lesson we learned while playing football.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's why I think that sport is so important. It teaches you a lot.
Oh yeah. So let's get a little background. How old were you when you started playing?
When I started playing, I'm from Georgia, so we started pretty young. When I started at 6 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been playing ever since then, every
Mhm.
single year. So this is the first season where I haven't been on the football field during football season. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit different,
Mhm.
a little bit of a transition
Mhm.
period, but it's been good. I mean,
Mhm.
football has always been what I love to do, and I'm
Right.
still pursuing it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just been a great experience my
Right.
whole life playing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've been involved with University of Colorado and especially the athletic department for 25 years at least. And I am a CU grad. But one of the things that we learned very quickly, no matter what the sport, is just how professional student athletes are. And I'm always real big on the fact that you are student athletes.
Mhm.
You're hoping to still go pro, fingers, toes, everything crossed. But for the most part, most students don't. They do transition into the work world. But as we said, what they are learning really does apply to business. And I think one of the biggest things that so many people who aren't familiar with student athletes think is the good old term dumb jock, right? We assume, oh, you just know how to play football, you don't know how to play anything else. That couldn't be farther from the truth. So take us back to maybe what your routine would have been when you were playing for either one of the universities. Just kind of walk us through a day of what you would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have a video, a day in the life video on
Oh, I
YouTube.
love
I
it.
did
Mm-hmm.
for one of my classes while
Mm-hmm.
I was at CU.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody wants to go look that up, just
Mm-hmm.
type my name in. But yeah, I mean, both schools I was at, we would practice in the mornings, do all
Mm-hmm.
of our football stuff in the morning. So
And we're talking like 6 a.m.
yeah,
sometimes, right?
your
Mm-hmm.
day usually starting around 6 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have workouts in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. You just start around 6.
Mm-hmm.
You have meetings, during the season, you'll have meetings before practice.
Mm-hmm.
Practice usually starts around 8:30, and
Mm-hmm.
then go for a couple hours. And then yeah, when you get out, you gotta go do your treatment or whatever you have to do after practice.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, you're tired, exhausted, and then you got to go to class
Mm-hmm.
and pay attention and do all those kind of things. Go home, do your work at night, and then wake up and do the same thing all
Mm-hmm.
over again every single day.
Right.
So that's kind of how that goes, and it takes a lot of discipline, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one of those skills that you
Oh
learn.
yeah. And I mean, you talk discipline. It's like if you don't show up for work, you
Yeah.
don't play. And you could be the star, but you don't do what everybody else does, and yeah, you're not going to play.
Yeah, 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 and I think that's how it should be too.
Mhm.
So
Right. Yeah, and and I think especially for those who are the student and the athlete, because we all think back to when we were in college, and there was no matter what your level of study was, what you were getting your degree in, you were probably working pretty hard. I mean, there were hours that you were studying. Now granted, athletes have tutors and things like that, and so that does kind of help a bit. But you basically in essence held down two jobs, because you were a student and you were an athlete.
right, yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's definitely like having two jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and I think part of that, is just finding every way to make it easier on yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
like you say, we have tutors, they're available for us to
Mm-hmm.
use. So, what I would do personally is, I wouldn't want to, when you start out as a freshman, you kind of have the mandatory tutoring, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to go check in with tutors and
Yep.
academic advisors and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So for me personally, like I just knew, okay, I need to get this amount of work done in this amount
Mm-hmm.
of time so that I won't have to go and check in with all these different
Mm-hmm.
tutors and everything like that. But all the work that I would actually really need help on, I would make sure that I would reach out to a tutor
Mm-hmm.
just so they know that, okay, if Derrion actually needs help, he's going to reach
Mm-hmm.
out and he's going to get that help. And
Mm-hmm.
that way we don't have to be on his back about going to tutoring and
Mm-hmm.
doing things like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's just kind of one of the things that I learned going through it was just like, the help is there and just use it when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just make your life a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier. I think
Right.
that's something a lot of students can do too.
Mm-hmm.
They have tutors for
Mm-hmm.
students too. So
Right.
just make your life as easy as you can.
Mm-hmm.
If the help is there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, we all still think of college as, you went and you partied, and
Yeah.
yeah, you had fun, but, especially as an athlete, you couldn't do that. I mean, not
Right.
if you had to be up and alert for practice at 6 a.m.,
Mhm.
you weren't staying out partying until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't even want to.
Yeah, I mean, you probably did every once in a while. We're
Yeah,
just going to be
sometimes.
honest about that. But, not the every weekend type of thing. And of course, you were busy on the weekends,
Mhm.
it frequently, obviously. Now, football doesn't have, clearly the schedule that, say, basketball does, but you were gone. And so there was all that travel time, and and you typically got there, a day or so early to kind of recoup, do all of those things. So it wasn't, you got there and you played and then you got back on the plane. There's game days were long, complicated things.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, we would get out there like a day or two early,
Mm-hmm.
get acclimated with
Mm-hmm.
everything. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, just go through the game and then we would fly straight back, right
Mm-hmm.
after the game. So if you did want to go out at all,
Mm-hmm.
that was usually your time to do it. If we had a
Mm-hmm.
early enough game, fly back and then
Right.
go party, whatever. And then you might have Sunday to just
Mm-hmm.
kind of relax. But,
Right. Yeah. Because most of the time coaches gave you that day off and then you started again
yeah.
on Mondays.
And then a lot of times, you might not even have the whole Sunday off.
Mm-hmm.
You might just have to come in later for some
Right.
treatment or
Mm-hmm.
might have study hall or something or whatever. So it's just, yeah, just understanding your schedule and knowing what you can and can't do.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there are people, especially in the athletic departments, that help with that scheduling.
Mhm.
But again, it's just like, in an office, you've got an admin assistant, you've got whatever that kind of helps keep everybody on track.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the most important parts of any
Mm-hmm.
program is having those people to just
Mm-hmm.
kind of keep you on track. Because, a lot of times you come in and you're so set on football, a lot of those other things can kind of slip away
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. So, just having those people that can
Mm-hmm.
just kind of keep you on that road and just make sure everything is getting done is
Mm-hmm.
extremely helpful. Yeah.
Right. And academically, I mean, it is obviously a challenge. Long gone are the days when you went and you got a PE degree, and you didn't go to class.
Mhm.
And Colorado and Tulane. I mean, they're both excellent universities that their student athletes did not coast, and they do not coast.
Yeah.
You have to keep up the grades, and obviously NCAA makes schools do that too. But schools also are very proud of their graduation rates, and
Mhm.
that is, I think, one of the things that people tend to forget is, and now, it's great if somebody's able to turn pro and leave, but otherwise you want them there and you want them graduating. And so the school is going to make sure that they do everything to try and get you to do that. And many of the students, I always like going through the programs, or online, wherever it is now, and seeing what majors people are taking, because
Mhm.
some of them, holy schmoly, I mean, there's been pre-med, there's all sorts of different majors where that those young people are working their tails off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen it with a couple of my teammates. I mean, I know coming in to see you, I was looking at going into the business school,
Mhm.
and then just talking with some of the coaches at the time. They were kind of telling me, they weren't telling me not to do it, but they were like, if you do decide to do that,
Hard.
it's going to be a lot.
Mhm.
You're going to be working a lot harder than the rest of your teammates and
Mhm.
everything like that. So I just kind of had to put in perspective what I thought was important for me at the time,
Right.
was just focusing on
Mhm.
football and
Mhm.
still getting my degree.
Right.
I
Mhm.
went into the strategic communications. I forget
Mhm.
what the actual school is called.
Oh, they change names too. It gets
I
very
think it was,
confusing.
yeah. Yeah, so went
Mhm.
into that and then still a lot of work, but
Mhm.
uh, I definitely remember seeing some of my teammates, they might have to leave practice to go
Mhm.
do something or, you know, be out late at crazy hours, just grinding. So,
Mhm.
I definitely commend those guys that I would see, in the business school and
Mhm.
doing like, pre-med kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's like having almost three jobs,
Mhm.
how much
Right.
they're working. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And it really is, as we were saying, you were learning that discipline of time management, of getting the job done. And this, especially when you are a student athlete, you can't pass it off to somebody else. I mean, you have to have those skills. And we're talking about, classroom. There's also all of the things you have to learn to actually play. I always find it amazing when, they can't zoom in, but they show, like the quarterback flips his little armband, and it's in tiny little print are all of the things, all of the plays and all of those. So kind of, what was that process like? I mean, what was the mental steps that you went through to be the player?
Yeah. I think that's part of it that, not many fans know about is really how much time you have to put into just learning the playbook, especially like my time at CU, having all those different coaches come in.
Yeah, you had to keep learning new stuff.
I had to keep learning different playbooks, which was tough at times, but I think it was advantageous for me too, because it kind of just taught me how to have to learn and adjust to things quickly. But yeah, I mean, learning those plays, it's a whole grind itself. It's a whole class in itself. And a lot of times you're almost putting in more time doing that than some of your schoolwork. But yeah, I mean, in order to play, you got to know the playbook. And then in order to play fast and play confident, you really got to know the playbook and really feel good about it. And that's kind of the level you get to typically when you kind of start getting older, because, a lot of freshmen come in and, they don't really know.
It's kind of like the bright lights in the city, right?
I remember my first time, it took me a while to kind of get into it, but that comes with coaching too, how good your coaches are to help you learn and everything like that. But, it's a lot of time. And, we talk about the time management thing. I mean, part of it be going to practice in the morning, going to school in the afternoon, and then coming back to the facility in the evenings and watching film and meeting with coaches. And, it's just taking that next step. And that's kind of what it takes, especially if you want to start on Saturdays. You gotta put in that work, put in that time and really learn those plays.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to be flexible because, you've got your standard set of plays, but then of course it's, it changes based on who you're playing.
Oh yeah.
And it can even change in the middle of the game.
Oh yeah. Halftime adjustments. Yeah. You really got to be locked in with that stuff. And that's part of knowing, if you know the base defense and know it like the back of your hand, then you can kind of make those adjustments on the fly and it not be a thing. But yeah, it's a lot of times you're in the game and the coach will draw something on the whiteboard and you got to remember that, for the rest of the game, and it might be completely different than everything that you've been taught. So it's just one of those things. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things that people don't always understand is if you don't do it correctly. Now, granted, there's going to be mistakes. I mean, things happen. Somebody goes left when you thought they were going right, things like that. But not only might you lose the game, if you're not doing things the right way, you can get hurt. And of course, that's one of the things that, you never want to happen, even if it just knocks you out for a play or two.
Yeah. And yeah, I've definitely been in those situations. You have to know how to tackle the correct way and fit gaps the right way. Everything has a technique to it. Everything you do on the field has a technique to it. So yeah, and like you said, you got to know how to do everything, and it takes 11 people doing everything the right way. All it takes is one person jumping out of line and
and then there goes that little flag, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, I see a lot of fans, somebody might score and fans might be blaming like a corner or safety, and they don't even really understand the defense and understand, okay, maybe that was supposed to be a linebacker, or maybe if the D-line did this and got to the quarterback, then that play wouldn't have been there. So it's those kind of things that, when you really understand football, understand the game, you understand how important it is to have all 11 people do everything the right way. That's really the biggest difference maker, I would say, from college to the NFL is, college, you can kind of make those, I'm not gonna say you can, but those mistakes are kind of more prevalent. With the NFL, you got to be on it. Like it has to be.
And if you're not, there's like some 300-pound dude that's going to plant you.
Yeah, definitely. And not even that. I mean, that too, but you could lose your job and now you can't feed your family, So it's a lot of risk involved with that.
Right. And The like we said, the parallels between this and business are just so strong. Where we see businesses fail is when they're not flexible or their employees aren't flexible. I haven't worked in a corporate environment for 20 years, but when I was in offices, that would be one of the things I would see is so many times people would say, "That's not my job."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're like, no, and you do that in football and you're benched, basketball, whatever, it doesn't matter. And, or they would say, but this is the way we've always done it. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things that we saw in COVID when businesses shut down and had to function differently, whether it was that they had to completely redo or, the employees were home, all of those various things when people said, but that's not the way we've always done it. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that, and you learned in sports that you can't do that.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that, especially playing safety. My position, I would be the one having to look to the sideline, get the call from the coach, make the call to everybody on the defense, make the calls on motions and adjustments. You got to know all that stuff on the fly. And there's times, if you're talking with the corner or if I see something and if I don't communicate that to the corner, even if the corner's already supposed to know it, it's my job.
You just got to make sure they know it.
Yeah, I got to make sure you know it. So if I don't communicate something and they get a big play off of it, you could blame the corner for not knowing, but that's one of those things where, the coach and they're going to look at you like, you're the one who's supposed to tell them. Even
right.
if
you were that manager who didn't help the people that he was supposed to help.
So, yes, understanding that responsibility is huge. And then, like you said, being able to adjust to different situations. I think I've like I said, I've learned that a lot just going through different coaches and being able to have to learn how to work with different coaches and different defenses and, just being able to adjust because a lot of people that go through college, they might have one coaching staff, maybe two, so they can get really comfortable in their defense and what they do. But I think for me, just being able to learn all those different ways of playing and learn all the different plays and play calls and things like that, it's been really good for me. Just
it really made you be flexible.
Yeah, didn't have a choice. Right.
And it is fascinating when you start looking at sports and the correlation between that and working. And I think that's one of the things that employers don't always understand is if you're an employer and you want a good employee, there's two that are the best: former athletes and former military. They know how to do, everything that you're supposed to do. Now, obviously, military, they're not quite as flexible, but those two categories of people really did learn how to work well with others, how to make sure that they were helping others. As you were saying, you were making sure that the people around you knew what was going on. And, especially with athletes, you also had the little distraction of, those fans who, in some cases, there might have been 50, 60, 70,000 people who were there yelling. And so just trying to keep your head focused and do what you're supposed to do is such a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, when I'm playing, I don't really notice the fans. I mean, just because it's so much that you have to be paying attention to on the field, like that noise kind of just gets drowned out, because like I said, like I'm looking at the coach, I'm looking at.
You're not looking up in the stands. You shouldn't be anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, I mean, they're probably going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, you're going to deserve to have somebody just run right over top of you.
Exactly. So you definitely got to be locked in. I mean, I don't know how you can play if you're not, but so I don't really notice the fans, of course, unless I'm on the sideline and hearing them or trying to hype them up or something like that. But I would say when you're on the field, like that's really all you should be worried about.
Right. And teams know also, they practice with noise.
Oh yeah.
And so you get used to kind of that, and it becomes white noise. where it's just kind of that din. And yeah, you ignore it. I've heard, I've talked with athletes before who, what bothers them is when there's not a crowd.
Yeah, I would
For
say that's
whatever reason, COVID, obviously. I
that
mean,
was weird.
you played a whole season with nobody in the stands except a couple little family members here and there, right? And
Yeah,
so to all of a sudden have all that quiet, that had to be kind of unnerving.
yeah, that was definitely a little different experience because like you make a play and you're expecting the crowd to go
Right.
crazy.
And you hear two people go,
Yeah, it's like, oh,
yeah, thanks, mom.
right. Yeah. So I will say that was a little bit weird because you definitely notice the crowd when when they're going crazy, you make a big play or something like that because you feed off of that energy. But yeah, it's a little different when there was nobody up there and it was just quiet the whole time. But
Yeah, and it was funny because they made noise in the stadium,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
noise didn't always match. I always thought that was really funny. It was like, oh, somebody hit the wrong button.
yeah. So it was definitely that was definitely a weird year with that COVID stuff. So
Right.
yeah.
Now I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, because here we are in Georgia, and you have all these people who say, oh, we've got such a cool mascot. No. So for those of you who don't know, Georgia's mascot is cool. We like Uga, pretty cool dog, but Uga doesn't do much unless it goes after Bevo. That's got to be one of my all-time favorites of all time. But Colorado, of course, has a live buffalo.
Right.
So just what's it like running onto the field behind Ralphie?
Oh man, that's crazy. I mean, I still remember my first time doing it at the Broncos Stadium playing CSU.
Yep, when we would play CSU.
Yeah. But that was crazy. I remember just going on my first visit out there, and they let me go like pet the buffalo and everything like that, and I was just like, wow, like this is a real buffalo, like that we're really about to run out behind.
Right. And she would have been. So we're on a different buffalo since you played.
Buffalo now.
So yeah, you would have had the Ralphie that was big. She was full grown.
I think it was. Yeah. She was big, and yeah, I would definitely see the handlers how they would have to run with the buffalo. That was always amazing to me, and watching them fall down and stuff sometimes that was pretty funny. But yeah, there's no other place in the country that does it like that.
Right.
So
right.
Great.
You'll have to, if you haven't seen it, you'll have to look because I believe Chris Fowler, one of the times when they were there, because of course, he ran with Ralphie. And it was, and he was in his sports, broadcasting attire, so he was, but yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where, he did do, he ran with Ralphie. And so it was just so much fun to see that. But it's, to me, I equate that too with businesses, that you have these icons, you have, these things that stand for what your business means. And it's not just your logo, things like that. It really is, in so many cases, something that is much bigger than that.
Yeah. I definitely think that's what Ralphie is. That's what Ralphie represents for the school. Yeah, and great mascot. I think it's the best mascot in the country.
I know. And some of them, I'm always like, I'm sorry, what's a Jayhawk?
Yeah.
And I say that simply because I have all these family members who are Kansas people. But yeah, it's so fun when you see, when you see Ralphie run like that. But it's, all schools have their big traditions where, they are, they've got whatever, and businesses have those too. I mean, a lot of people don't stop to think about that, but businesses have traditions. And I think that's part of what binds a business, what binds the employees together, is to know, here are the things that we're going to do. And a lot of times it's things like their philanthropic efforts. They know that they're going to go out and they're going to help the community. All these various things.
Yeah. I think that's really good. So you can kind of have like an identity to kind of fall back on and always just remember, like, it's kind of like having that why. You just think back, okay, I'm doing this because of this reason. So, yeah, and when times kind of get
Mhm.
tough for you, you can think back to that. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I think that's really
Right.
good.
Right. Well, it's so much fun talking football. I love football. We're looking forward to next year. We'll just leave it at that. People who
Yeah,
haven't paid
yeah,
attention to the
yeah.
news, you've been under a rock.
Everybody should know.
You know? But so you graduated in last fall. So the fall of
Um, yeah, last spring, I just
okay,
graduated in May from
okay,
Tulane. Yeah.
okay, right. And you and I got connected because someone from the athletic department at CU contacted me, and it was really funny because I get this text from Lance Carl. Didn't even know Lance had my number, and he texts me. He says, "Hey, there's this kid who he lives in Atlanta. He's recently graduated, and would I be willing to talk with you?"
Mm.
Of course, I said yes. And especially because it was Lance. I mean, everybody tells Lance yes, but it was something where and what he told me was you were building your network,
Right.
and that to me was so incredibly impressive to be a recent graduate and and already be thinking, okay, here's what I need to be doing. And
Mm.
now how much I mean, obviously you focused on football during the time that you were at both CU and Tulane, and other students who are not athletes are building their networks kind of before they graduate. So do you feel like you kind of had to play catch up a bit?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm still playing catch up, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really look at it as a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
But if I could go back and what I would tell a lot of college athletes
Mm-hmm.
going through school right now is I know at CU and I know they did it at Tulane too. There's a lot of networking
Mm-hmm.
events and things like that the school might have for you to go to, and a lot of times it's tough because all the things we do during the day, and then there might be an event in the evening. You just kind of want to go home and relax.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely say go to a few of those and
Mm-hmm.
just talk with people and just try to make some connections, because that's if I could go back, I would definitely do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I've seen how far I've made it just talking with the connections that I
Mm-hmm.
did did form at
Mm-hmm.
CU and at Tulane, and it's been an amazing experience so far. So I just think back, well, if I would have talked to all these other
Mm-hmm.
people, then it's no telling, what connections I
Right.
might have made. So I think that's one of the most important things you can do is just form those relationships,
Mm-hmm.
network, and just get to know as many
Mm-hmm.
people as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
And I discovered, long time ago that alumni, wherever you go and whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. Alumni like to help other alumni,
Right.
which is why on LinkedIn, you put in there what university you went to.
Mhm.
Um, and it's always suggesting. I mean, I was tinkering around in there earlier today, and it, the field came up and said, hey, you might know,
Yeah.
it had like
That on
9 people that went to to the same university. Of course, you don't. Almost never do, because we're talking thousands and thousands of people, right? But you also might look at that and go, oh, that's somebody at a company that I was wanting to connect with. And I have found that anytime either I reach out to somebody or somebody reaches out to me and says, I am an alumni of, I'm always going to connect with them. Doesn't matter what they say after that. I am going to connect with them and help them do whatever. So, I always encourage people to think about that connection, because, and it's funny. I mean, it doesn't matter what generation they are, what their majors are, any of those things. It's that you were an alumni and they want to help.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the coolest things that I've experienced doing that. I mean, and I really started thinking about that this past year when I was at Tulane, as I
Mm-hmm.
started getting older and
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about like my life after football.
Mm-hmm.
But Tulane is obviously a great school. They have a lot of great alumni.
Right.
One of those alumni is the Glazers that actually own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I
Oh.
think that they own a couple other
Mm-hmm.
sports teams. So big billionaires. They're really doing everything right way. We actually have something called the Glazer Family Club up there in the stadium, so
Mm-hmm.
at Tulane. So I remember one day after practice, they came and talked to us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of talked. This was after Tampa Bay won the championship, so
Mm-hmm.
um, Avi Glazier, that was his name. He came, he had his Super Bowl ring on and everything like that, just kind of talking with us about, life and everything like that. And I'm just sitting there like, I've never spoke with a billionaire before,
Right. Yeah.
like
But
even
you're like,
like,
wow, he's like a normal person.
yeah, like he's like a normal guy. Yeah. So, after we had got done talking, I went back in the locker room, grabbed my phone, and came back out on the field and just started talking with him and his wife and just figuring out ways I could just connect with them and just form a relationship with them. And kind of through that, I had some great conversations with his wife, and she introduced me to a lot of people in a lot of different fields, and it just kind of opened up some different options for me. If I wanted to go that route, so I feel like it's just one of those things. I just wanted to plant that seed with them, and kind of see where that relationship goes. In the future,
Right.
might be able to circle back around and do something later down the road. And yeah, so I think things like that, when you see those opportunities, I think people should just take them and just take the time just to introduce yourself, because you never know really what could come out of it.
Right. Yeah. And most people won't approach him. It doesn't, and billionaire or not billionaire,
Right.
they're like, oh, they're busy people. I'm not going to approach him. I remember years ago, you weren't born. Before you were born,
98.
I was getting into public relations. I had decided that was what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so we had to do our research very different. The internet didn't exist. And so I was looking through the Denver Business Journal. There was an article in there about this gentleman who was the head of public relations for Coors. We're from Colorado, so he was the head of Coors. His name was Swede Johnson. And I wrote him a letter, a physical letter, that you'll put a stamp on. and I sent it to him. But basically the letter said, I'm getting, going into public relations. I would love to talk with you on the phone for 15 minutes to get to know a little bit about what you think. Well, 2 or 3 days go by, and I get this phone call from his admin assistant. Mr. Johnson would like you to come to Coors and talk to him. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so I went and met with him, and he could not have been nicer. Now, he had that reputation. I mean, the Public Relations Society of Colorado gives away now the Swede Johnson Award, things like that. I mean, he was just one of those people. But I went and I met with him, and I was very conscious of the time. I did not want to encroach on his time in any way. And he gave me great advice. But then he said, you need to talk to this person, this person, this person. And he picked up the phone and he called them. Now, they, of course, took his call. And he said, I'm going to send this person to meet with you. I'm still friends with those people now on Facebook. Unfortunately, Swede has passed away. But, it really was, I mean, at the very least, he was just going to ignore me, right? But I took I had the courage to contact him and say, here's what I'm wanting to do.
Yeah. And that's basically what happened with me talking with the Glazers. His wife connected me with all these different directors of the different departments over there at the Bucks and things like that. And yeah, if she said, she wanted them to meet with me, they were
right. They were going to go, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So yeah, formed some good relationships over there with some people. So yeah, I think that's what it's all about. It's just, you got to go and have the courage to go in there and have those conversations. And just, for me personally, just remembering like what I want out of life, so that's kind of like my why, for why I go and do the things that I would do. So I was just had that in the back of my head, and it was just, got to take the steps to accomplish that,
Right.
Yeah.
So what is your why?
I think for me, I just want to be able to, live the life that I want to live, have the freedom to do what I want to do. And, I've always liked just being just an independent person, not really having people on my back about a whole bunch of things. I just like to just be able to do what I want, and, just be able to live the life that I want to live. I've always had I would always envision myself like, just being successful for me is just the thing that I want, whatever that really looks like. And I usually know when I'm doing the right things, because it makes me feel good about myself, so that's kind of like what I kind of just focus on is, doing the things that's going to continue to make me feel good, make me happy, and, add some kind of positive value to the world, so when I everything I do, I just kind of think about that and think about, where I'm at right now. And I'm just like, right now I have nothing to lose, so I can do everything that I want to do to try to accomplish that for myself.
Right.
Yeah.
You and I've been talking off and on now for several months. And, as I said, I've been just so impressed with what you're doing. But talk to us a little bit about, some of the things you've been thinking about as you've gone, okay, I'm not a student anymore, not sure about the athlete part.
Yeah.
What's next? So kind of talk to us about some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I mean, for me, recently, I know, I've been working in real estate and real estate investing. And, I do want to say I really appreciate you for connecting me with Brian. That's part of,
Yep.
networking and things
He's
like that.
very impressed with you, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
And for everybody else, you happen to mention that you were thinking maybe fix and flip. That's what my neighbor does.
Right.
And I know you have been working with him, and he has been impressed with you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's part of it. It's been great working with him. He's taught me a lot. And I'm extremely thankful for him. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for Lance Carl for even, giving me the opportunity to meet you guys. I'm trying to think, what was the question again?
So what are you thinking about doing? Because you've had several that I just was like, "Whoa, that sounds really cool." And I mean, that's the thing too, I think is, it's like my generation, we went, oh, we have to do this. There's this little box that we have to do. And you're like, I'm going to do this and this and this. And if that one doesn't work out, well, we'll do this and this. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually when I first after the draft, I didn't get picked up. I really started thinking like, okay, I really have to figure out what else I want to do. So I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always had that mindset. I always was interested in real estate, but for me, it was just kind of figuring out. My plan always was to make money playing football and kind of use that as a stepping stone to do whatever
kind
else.
of get that bank account going.
Yeah, exactly. So when that didn't happen, I just had to kind of rethink things. And real estate was always where I saw myself going. But at first, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a look into some e-commerce. So I kind of looked at that a little bit, and I was like, I don't really want to do that too long. And then kind of looked into like some government contracting. I was like, that's interesting. But I don't know if I really want to do that right now. And then I really started taking a deeper look into the real estate side of things. And I was like, I saw myself doing it once I already had some money, but I was like, if I could really learn real estate right now, and the investment side of everything, then, when I do come across that money, I'll know exactly what I want to do with it in the market and, know exactly where I want to put my money. So I think right now, especially with what I've been doing and working with Brian, in the real estate market, the market hasn't been very forgiving, these past couple months. But, I kind of see that as an advantage because if I can go in there and learn all these things about real estate now and, do some deals in this market where it's at today, I know that when it picks up in the future, I'll be in a lot better position and, really know what I want to do with everything, so that's kind of where I'm at is, kind of building that real estate business up, the investment side of things, and just really learning that. And then on top of that, I've also been working on my personal brand, which is called Global Hero. I actually have the shirt on right now.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, and the slogan behind that is be your own hero. And I feel like that's really what I've been doing ever since, ever since the draft, is just figuring out what I want to do because, I feel like a lot of people in my position, it can be really easy to get down on yourself because it's like,
your goal was that you were going to play professional ball.
Yeah, yeah. And the hardest thing about that is, you don't really have too much control over it. It's someone has to give you the opportunity to do that. So I was like, I could sit here and kind of feel bad and wait around for somebody to give me the opportunity to live the life that I want to live and do what I want to do, or I can just, take it into my own hands and start doing those things now and start building my future now. So that's what I figured I would do, and I've been doing it, and it's been going great for me. So
Right. And then you toss in the fact that you are still working out and staying
Yeah,
in
yeah, of
shape,
course. Yeah,
and
yeah,
all of it, because you never know when an opportunity might come
exactly.
up. I mean, you've got a couple more years where
Mhm.
conceivably, if somebody says, "Hey, Derrion," you could say, "Okie dokie."
Right, right. Yeah. So that's part of it. And that's where it comes down to just having that discipline that I learned
Mhm.
from playing college sports. Because now, I'm not on any kind of timetable or anything
Right.
like that. I have to go work out myself. And,
Hmm.
if
And
I want
it's
to do,
awful easy sometimes to think no.
yeah, yeah, it can get real easy. It can get real easy. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, and it's the same thing, if I know I want to be doing this real estate
Hmm.
investing, I have to work on that throughout
Hmm.
the day for a certain amount of
Hmm.
hours. So it's just having that discipline and just staying focused,
Hmm.
because like you said, it can be real easy to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna sit in
Hmm.
bed and just watch a movie or something
Hmm.
like that. But it's like, no, you have to have that end goal in mind of what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is something where, I when I work with people who are in the job market, I tell them, you are your product.
Hmm.
And I love that you're working on your personal brand, because you are selling you. you know and so many people think, oh, that's no, we are, that's so important. And like you said, that comes with that discipline, that comes with not just sitting and being the couch potato, and all of those things. It's not, I am still going to accomplish great things.
Yeah, yeah, and I really think it's really a part of me now because
Mhm.
on those times where I might get a little bit lazy, like
Mhm.
it just makes me feel terrible, and it's like
Mhm.
I know I don't want to feel like that, so I'm
Mhm.
gonna continue to do the things that
Mhm.
I know I need to do and that I've
Right.
been kind of just taught to do, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of like natural for me almost
Mhm.
now. So
Right. Yeah, and especially for an athlete, I mean, your body wants to do that. And
right,
when you don't do it, your body goes, "Excuse me."
yeah, what's going on?
um,
Like,
and obviously it's different workouts,
hmm
but yeah, you still, and I've known former athletes, quite a few former athletes who, eh, it's always interesting when you look at their playing time pictures, and now, and you're like, wow.
yeah,
And it is because it's not that they got lazy, it's that they had other things they were doing,
yeah,
raising families, working, all of those things. And working out kind of got pushed to the side,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, having that discipline to still be doing it when you don't have a conditioning coach saying, you
right.
know
Versus
20
we're going.
more reps.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, just got to have that discipline to do it. And
Mhm.
it's been great for me so far. I actually just got my first house under contract today. So
Wow,
yeah,
I love it.
really been. I would say like the past 3 or 4 weeks is when
Mhm.
I've really been taking action on
Mhm.
it. And before that was just kind of learning everything.
Mhm.
So yeah, to get that first one under
Mhm.
contract feels really good. Now I know it's possible. So
Mhm.
it's just about repeating that
Mhm.
same process and continuing to do
Right.
it. And I don't see any reason why
Mhm.
it should slow down.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, and obviously the market here in Atlanta does weird things. But it's also a huge market. you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And yeah, people who, when I talk to them from Denver, they're, they'll say something. I'm like, you understand there's over 6 million people here. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh wow. They, I don't think they realize just how big Atlanta is. And there's so many different parts of Atlanta. There's obviously very exclusive neighborhoods. There
Mhm.
are times where I drive around, in the northern suburbs and think, wow.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
then, but for the most part, everything are, for the average people. Um, and so there's a lot of opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, and what I really like about Atlanta is there's a lot of entrepreneurial
Hmm.
minded people out here.
Right.
Like I've been to a few real estate events where
Hmm.
I've met a lot of really good people, and then
Hmm.
on top of that, a lot of people of color that are
Hmm.
doing things in real
Right.
estate and different
Hmm.
entrepreneurial ventures. So
Hmm.
it's really good to see that and being able
Hmm.
to connect with people like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's been great. They've taught me a lot. Everyone's taught me a lot.
Hmm.
Every little thing that I've learned um, has been useful
Mhm.
for me. So yeah, it's just about just that pursuit of just
Mhm.
learning and just continuing to
Mhm.
learn. And the one thing I just try to keep in mind for myself is I just want to move that ticker a little bit every day. You know, I
Mhm.
remember when I first started trying to learn real estate, it reminded me of when I was first trying to learn a playbook. You know, you're
Mhm.
not going to understand anything at first.
It's like it's a
But
different language,
yeah,
right?
it's a different language, but you know, if you just keep working at it every day and you do something
Mhm.
every day to just get better at it, then eventually, you know,
Mhm.
it's gonna become like second nature to you.
Right.
So
Right.
that's what I've been really
Mhm.
focusing on. Just
Mhm.
how can I get a little bit better each and every day?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
love that. And I think it's also so important that you were finding these mentors along the way.
yeah,
And so many times business people, I don't care, if they're fresh out of college or my age, they think we have to do it alone. We
oh no, yeah,
it's a failure if we ask for help. And of course the exact opposite is true. Now for you, it's a coach, right? Starting it at 6, you had those coaches who were your mentors, but then you also had the other players who, kind of filled that role too. So you just were used to asking other people for assistance and knowing that it's such a positive thing to be able to do it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's definitely an important part of it. You know,
Mhm.
you gotta be able to ask for help. I mean, and I know one part of football where that's really resonated with me is just, you know, when you're on the court or not on the court, on the field,
Mhm.
and you don't understand something, you know, you have to ask. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, you know, you want to ask those why questions. Like if
Right.
a coach is up there teaching you a play
Mhm.
and you don't understand, you might be like, okay, well, why do I need to be here
Mhm.
in this
Right.
position?
And you're not asking it to be the obnoxious 3-year-old. Why?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. To
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
understand.
Right.
So, you know, asking for
Mhm.
help and reaching out to people is
Mhm.
how you really get that understanding of
Mhm.
what you need to do. And yeah, I don't know if there's any huge corporations where people have just done everything
Mhm.
solely by themselves. You know,
Mhm.
everything is a team effort. You know, you're
Right.
gonna need help at some
Mhm.
point, especially if you're trying to
Mhm.
scale your business up. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
And I see that a lot with small business owners who are solopreneurs. It's just them, and they think I have to do it all. Well, that's a horrible
yeah,
philosophy
making it harder.
because,
Yeah.
for one thing, they're not that smart. Sorry
Mhm.
to break it to them, but they're not that smart. They're not going to know tax law. They're not going to know HR rules, all of those various things. And so it's so important to be building those networks of people that you can go out to. I'm starting a new business venture, and it's been entertaining to start drawing people in and saying, here's how, and here's how I'm wanting to learn from you. But
Mhm.
then there's the reciprocity. How can I help you?
Right.
And that's kind of the thing is we always absolutely have to be remembering, how can we give back?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like you say, yeah, when you ask for help, you got to be able to provide some
Mhm.
kind of value in return, you
Right.
know? So yeah, it's just about figuring that out
Mhm.
and figuring out what you can provide.
Mhm.
And, you know, as long as you can provide something,
Mhm.
it could be anything, you know, it could be your work ethic. Like,
Mhm.
you know, Brian didn't have to help me. I didn't, when I first came to him, you know, I didn't have anything
Mhm.
to provide, or at least I thought I didn't. And I actually told him that one time, and he said, like, no, you have your work ethic, you know, you
Mhm.
want to, and you know,
And he's a
thanks for
hockey
that.
dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a big basketball guy too. He's a big
Mhm.
Celtics fan. So, but yeah, it's just, you know, understanding that sometimes the qualities that you might
Mhm.
have um might be just enough to
Mhm.
provide that value to
Mhm.
that person. So
Right.
just gotta think about what you
Mhm.
can provide and what you
Mhm.
can do, and you know, just kind of really embrace that and run
Mhm.
with it.
Right. And it
Yeah,
is about paying it forward. I know you've talked to me a little bit about talking with athletes, talking, about helping them get through all this. You talked a little bit about that now. It's taking what you learned and helping them.
yeah, yeah. And that is, I remember I told you a little bit about that, but you know, down the road, you know, once I'm really figured out, you know, this whole industry and
Mhm.
everything, and just I would say probably like 10 years from now, you know, when I really have everything kind of set in stone, you know, what I kind of see myself
Mhm.
doing is kind of going back and
Mhm.
teaching some athletes that were
Mhm.
kind of in my position, just about, specifically real estate, but then other entrepreneurial
Mhm.
things they might want to do too, and just teaching them about the importance of
Mhm.
networking and making the connections and just the different things, qualities that you need
Mhm.
to, be an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
how to run your systems and how to stay on track and stay disciplined and just really just be like just like a mentor for people, just the way people have helped me out, just kind of give back and help other people out and just
Right.
give them that avenue, someone
Mhm.
they can talk to if they have any questions or
Mhm.
anything like that. So
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got a couple minutes left. This has been so much fun. I always tell people, this is why I set a timer because, otherwise we'd be going, through dinner. If you could be talking right now to, and you might be, who knows who's listening to this, to a potential business partner or a potential employer, what would you tell them about yourself?
what I would tell them about myself is I'm motivated. I know what I want to get out of life, and I know the steps that I need to do and take to get there. Um, so yeah, if there's anybody who's out there in real estate that's in the market out here in Georgia, or any coaches that might be watching this that might want to sign me, you know what you're gonna get. I mean, you've heard the interview for the past hour, and
Mhm.
you know what kind of guy you're gonna get. So that's what I would say. Confident, hardworking man, and I like to get it done. I like to be around winners and people who are positive and really want success.
I love it. I love it. And you're going to go far. But I'm going to look back on this in 10 years and go, wow, I knew Derrion before.
Yeah,
You'll be one of those people on TV, on one of those fancy shows, all
hopefully,
of those
yeah,
things.
hopefully,
Um, yeah, yeah, and if you're not, it will be because you adjusted and you found something different in your why.
right.
Maybe, who knows what that could be. But yeah, you will, let me put it this way, you will be successful in whatever you do.
Right.
Because you have that mindset. You might not be on, whatever's of Atlanta, but you're going to be happy and you're going to be successful. And that I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah, I really appreciate that, and yeah, and that just goes back like it's just whatever success looks like to you personally.
Mhm.
It's just about accomplishing that. You can't really compare yourself to what other people are doing. That's one thing I've been learning just while I'm learning real estate. When you're really first learning something, you're gonna listen to the people who know the
Right.
most,
Mhm.
right? And it can be easy to kind of compare yourself to them. Oh, it's easy for them, like they know everything already, but
Mhm.
it took them time to get to
Mhm.
that point. So just got to keep that in mind and just keep working every single day. Yeah.
I love it. Well, normally I ask for final thoughts. That was a pretty good final thought. But do you have
Yeah.
anything else you want to leave everyone with?
Uh, Not really. Just be your own hero. That's what I would tell people. Be your own hero. If there's something you want, figure out how you can go and get that for yourself. And I don't mean do it by yourself, but figure out how you can go and accomplish whatever it is that you want to get. So that's what I would tell people.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I have been having so much fun and I can't wait to do this again in the future to
Yeah, yeah,
find out what you have done, and things like that. So we'll definitely have you on again for updates and all sorts of things. But until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having such a great conversation with Derrion Rakestraw. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.